The next step in putting images into CodeSculptor is to load them into CodeSculptor. Let's take a look at how to do that now. Actually, I have to delete what we've already done because I had a technical problem. So let's try it again. Here we have the basic framework of a CodeSculptor drawing program. And it's got its basic height and width. It's got a drawing handler, and it gets the frame set up to work. I can hit play, and I can see that everything's good to go. Now I actually have to do the loading. So how do I do that? Well, I come up with a variable. Could be any variable name. And into that variable, I am going to load the image. So the command is simply simple GUI.load image. And then the URL is going to go between quote marks. So it's a string. And I like to get it set up because URLs are really long, and if I don't put the ending on it, it can kind of get confusing later. So I usually go ahead and get this ready to go. Then I come over and I find the image that I want to use. I copy the URL. I go back, my cursor's right there, and I paste it in. Now that is loaded. You can see if I make this really big that you can see this whole thing. It ends in the quote in the end parentheses. So there's two more things that we need. We need to know the height and the width. We're going to use the height and the width later in order to put it on the screen. So we need to create a variable. Best would be to call it player width. I'm going to make that shorter, not because it's good practice to make shorter names, but the code I have to type later is really long, and I have to say this over and over again. So I'm going to make it a little bit shorter. You might even be tempted to say PW or something like that. So I need to know the width. I know from this image that this one, when I was in Google Images, it told me that it was 250 by 250. So I could go player height is 250, player width is 250. There's another trick that you can use. So I'm going to put a comment here in front of the 250 and type in another way to do it. And that is that you can use the variable of the image, so player, and then you can say get width, and it uses a method inside of the image that's built in to look up what the uh, width and the height are, so we don't actually have to look them up ourselves. And that's a great way to do it. It causes a little bit of a problem later on. Excuse me, I just started yawning. I was wide awake. It's really early for me to be yawning this much. But anyway, it causes a little bit of a problem later on when you load them, because if they load incorrectly, so if it looks up the website and for some reason it takes a long time to connect to the website and load the image, or if the website is down, that kind of thing, when you say get width and it's like I don't have an image to find a width of, you get an error message. And so this can cause an extra error message. Usually it works fine and it's handy, so I would suggest it. But if that doesn't work for you, look up the width and actually put in the number. The number won't give you an error message. Of course, if it doesn't load the image, it's not going to display the image later, but at least you would have not a weird error message here. Okay, so those three things are the things that you would do whenever you want to put an image on the screen. I'm just going to do it one more time. I don't like to copy and paste the three things and retype them because this URL is a pain to delete anyway, so it doesn't really save any time. Maybe these two you could copy and paste. course, it doesn't matter if I change this or not, but I know from earlier in Google that this is 1920 and this is 1200, so I'm going to make a note of that in case I need to use those later. So that's everything that we need to do to load the images into the program. So let's run it and see. Oh, there's nothing there. Well, it's because we didn't actually draw the images, we just loaded them. So we didn't use them, but they are in the memory now. So that's nice to know, but let's go on to step 3 and learn how to actually draw them next.